Imagine you're lying on a table, constrained. People are holding you down as a man with a hacksaw walks towards you. Sounds like a horror movie, right? This was the experience of nearly every medical patient before the invention of medical anesthetic. This video will cover the evolution of medical anesthetic, as it is quite possibly the most impactful invention in surgical history. Surgery before anesthetic was rough. It was incredibly painful, violent, and messy. Surgeries often led to infections and unintended inflictions. This is where the first character in the story comes in. His name is Robert Liston. Now, this guy is a mascot for medical integrity and skill at the time before anesthetic, which meant he held the world record for fastest amputation. That's right, the best strategy they had at the time was to perform the surgery as fast as possible, so that the patient felt the least pain and didn't squirm as much. We start out in the 1700s, and there's this party drug that's raging across upper-class parties. Its name was nitrous oxide. That's right, before being used in medicine, it was a drug used to get high. The same went for the other popular party drug, ether. Right now, let's focus on nitrous oxide, as doctors at the time preferred to study it rather than ether. This was likely because of nitrous oxide's greater popularity as a party drug. This drug was beloved in the public eye. You would administer it to a subject and they'd just start laughing and having a nice time. That's why it earned the name laughing gas. People loved getting high, but there was this one side effect that nobody was focusing on: a lack of pain while high. Professors would even travel and perform public experiments in which they administered nitrous oxide, or laughing gas, to a person. Then everyone would either laugh at or study the intoxicated person. In 1844, one of these exhibitions had a minor clink. After the nitrous oxide was administered, the subject fell down and violently wounded their leg. Although when the subject got up, he had felt no pain whatsoever. One of the people in the audience was a doctor based in Boston called Horace Wells. He instantly knew that anesthesia would become revolutionary in the surgical practice, and from that day forth he studied it. He was so determined that one of his first experiments was on himself. His friend gave him a large dose of nitrous oxide and pulled out his wisdom tooth with zero pain. He believed it worked perfectly, but he had faced obstacles when performing further testing, and when a public demonstration failed due to improper dosage, the public image was nitrous oxide was ruined. That's when Wells's apprentice, William Morton, comes into the story. While studying at Harvard, he observed a lecture by Charles Jackson. Charles Jackson was not only a doctor, but a chemist who regularly taught at Harvard, and he would end every lecture with a laughing gas demonstration. That day, when William Morton was watching, Jackson had run out of nitrous oxide, so he just used his knowledge of chemistry and the party drug ether to use it as a substitute. This is when William had the idea to use ether as an anesthetic rather than nitrous oxide. Well, William Morton decided that he would become the true inventor of anesthesia after his teacher Horace had failed, so he decided to study it. After performing various tests, including on himself, he concluded that the reason ether hadn't taken off was because the ether you buy from the pharmacy was too contaminated with alcohol. Pure ether could be used for far greater success. William Morton tried to profit off of his discovery to varying successes. That's when scientists started focusing on ether, and in 1846, the first successful ether operation was performed, in which a tumor was removed from the sedated patient's neck. 2 months later, everyone's favorite butcher, Robert Liston, was able to perform a proper leg amputation under ether. But there was one problem: side effects. Ether could cause nausea, respiratory distress, and could easily lead to death if applied incorrectly, so the public started to fear it. So what now? Is anesthesia just a dead end? Well, remember nitrous oxide? The reason it had failed publicly was because there was no device to properly administer the right amount. Well, back when William Morton had discovered pure ether, he tried to profit off of it. That's right, he didn't want to aid humanity or revolutionize surgery, he just wanted a quick buck. But in the end, this was actually a gift in disguise, as when he tried to patent pure ether, they wouldn't let him, so he patented the applicator. This applicator paved the way for nitrous oxide applicators to safely sedate patients. Now today, both nitrous oxide and ether are used in medicine, although ether is usually delegated to developing countries, while heavily altered and safer nitrous oxide is used by richer institutions. In the end, the history of anesthesia is one of how human desire to escape reality, along with human greed, brought upon multiple innovations that would save hundreds of thousands of lives.